Well, what is up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm excited to dive into today's episode because a lot of women come to me wanting to lose weight, but you know that you have some hormone and gut work that you need to do. You're experiencing symptoms like irregular cycles, constant fatigue that doesn't resolve no matter how much sleep that you get, bloating no matter how healthy that you eat, your hair is falling out and shedding, etc., etc. And after working with enough women, I see this pattern and I can tell you which of my clients are going to see body change while doing the internal healing work and which ones are going to do the healing yet still look exactly the same 6 months later and feel like you're fighting against your body, constant puffiness, clothes that are too tight, being triggered by scale fluctuations the entire time. There are these clients that are miserable during the healing journey, just biting their nails, waiting to focus on fat loss. And then there's other clients who, yes, are excited about being able to tackle a fat loss phase, but during the healing process are already seeing really positive shifts in their physique. So one group sees body recomposition happen alongside healing. They get leaner, look tighter, have more energy, their clothes are fitting differently, even if the scale barely moves. And then you have the other group that does basically the same protocol, yet stays stuck, experiencing the same kind of bloating, puffiness, same stubborn 10 pounds, the same symptoms of feeling like you're constantly frustrated with your body and your progress and quite literally just exhausted in this process. The difference is not in the protocol. And honestly, the difference is not even in the state of their hormones. We're going to be breaking down 6 different things that I want to go through in today's episode that kind of separates these two types of clients. And I'm speaking as a coach who has watched this play out over and over and over again. And honestly, I'm sharing this as someone who's made a good chunk of these same mistakes myself. So if you're convinced that like you're doing everything right, but your body is not responding, chances are you're not doing everything right. And hopefully today we'll be able to try to mirror up to some of those things that you can just make 1% better. The first thing is my favorite topic of all time, and that is reverse dieting. So, the women who see body recomposition are the ones who trust a reverse diet enough to actually follow through with it. So, you're hitting your targets consistently. You get to maintenance within 4 to 6 weeks because you follow the plan instead of negotiating the plan. Versus the women who don't see results are scared. They're scared to eat more. They're scared of the reverse diet. Maybe you're consistent like Monday through Wednesday and you kind of fall apart Thursday through Sunday. You're constantly under eating your target by 100 to 200 calories just to be safe. And because of that, your reverse diet takes way longer than 4 to 6 weeks and you're not getting the benefits of the reverse diet. That 100 to 200 calories matters so much more than you think. A reverse diet is a deliberate and strategic upregulation of your metabolism. So your body is going to read consistent, adequate fuel as a signal of safety. And a body that feels safe is a body that's willing to spend more energy, burn more calories instead of storing them. So when you're under eating your targets just in case, you're never sending your body or your metabolism that signal. You stay in the same suppressed metabolic state that you've been in for years. How I really like to think about a reverse diet is almost like getting a bonus in your paycheck at work. If you get a bonus of $50 to $100, most people, you're not just going to sit on it. Like you're going to take that $50 and $100 and you're going to go spend it on something that's high on your wish list and probably something that is a little bit more expensive on your wish list because having this extra cash will make that feel less expensive to you. So usually you get a bonus of $50, you go and buy something that's $75 or $100 and it just brings down the cost. Or like you fill up your Amazon cart and typically you would fill your Amazon cart by $200, but now you have this extra $100. So it kind of evens out. So you're still spending the $200, but you never would have spent that $200 in the first place if you didn't have this little extra bonus. That is basically what your body is thinking or feeling. Like if you give it an extra 200 grams of carbs, an extra 80 calories, it doesn't just store them or bank them. It's going to use them. And it uses that little extra surplus that you give it to maybe it's build muscle tissue if you're actually training properly to push harder in your workouts, to even simple things like rebuild hormones or produce more stomach acid to actually digest and break down your food efficiently, to take an extra walk in the day because you now have a little bit more energy to actually move your body consistently. And because of that, now you're burning more than just that 80 calories that you added in. And that is the mechanism behind resetting your metabolism by eating more and actually seeing body recomposition in the process, because you're almost inherently creating a calorie deficit by eating more. Because your metabolism, depending on the person and your genetics and your health history and honestly your consistency, your metabolism may upregulate beyond how much more that you're eating. On top of that, there's also an inflammation piece that, I don't think really gets much attention when it comes to a reverse diet, that a reverse diet solves for. When you have better workouts, you have more energy, you have consistent digestion, all are going to lower systemic inflammation throughout your body. And less inflammation literally means you look leaner even before the scale ever really moves. So if you've ever, tried a reverse diet, but you've only dipped your toes in and you've never actually gone head first, committed to it, done it consistently, or you've done a reverse diet, but you've, been inconsistent with things. Some days you're eating less, some days you're hitting your targets. You're just really missing out on the benefits that it does directly to your metabolism and indirectly to your physique with that. So moral of the story here is your consistency and your trust in the reverse diet process is going to make or break the physique changes that you see throughout it. Number 2 is food quality and consistency. So beyond just the reverse diet of eating more, it's like, okay, where is that extra food coming from? Where is your food coming from? The women with the biggest changes are more often than not following something close to a repeatable meal plan, eating roughly the same things on most days, versus the ones who are stuck are the ones eating out, typically more than twice a week, waking up with zero plan for the day, eating something different for lunch and dinner every other day, trying to get creative with your meals to the point where you're just overcomplicating it and making this unsustainable. And if we're talking about this through, the lens of physiology, when you are having inconsistent meals, you're also going to be experiencing inconsistent blood sugar, and a blood sugar roller coaster creates inflammation inside of the body, which is directly going to interfere with fat loss and hormone signaling. It's also going to disrupt your gut. Like, your gut microbiome thrives on repetition and fiber consistency. It does not like being surprised by a completely different meal every other day, or even completely different portions every other day. If you're someone who's some days eating out, you're going to be eating a much larger portion than if you're having that little snack for lunch that you meal prepped or packed. On top of that, as a practitioner, I find it extremely hard to identify what is and isn't working for your body when the inputs are always changing. It's so much easier for me to coach a client who is sticking to relatively a consistent meal plan, who eats repeatable meals every day. And I'm not expecting you to be a robot or to follow a meal plan necessarily, but to find your staples. And my philosophy is typically to repeat meals or rotate through the same staples over and over and over again. That is going to make it A, so much easier for you mentally, less decisions around food, and then B, be able to adjust things according to how your body is responding. How are we supposed to know what foods are and are not sitting well for you if you're eating something different every other day? And or eating things that have, multiple different ingredients. We don't really know how your body is responding to that. So if you are actually as serious as you say that you are about healing and about looking leaner, you're going to stick to 90% single ingredient whole foods and eating things that may feel boring repeatedly until your relationship with your body actually gets better, both from like a symptom standpoint and from a aesthetic standpoint. And the last piece to this that I talk about with clients often is something I already pointed out, but it just removes the decision fatigue from constantly being reactive with your nutrition. As a high achiever, you have so much on your mind and your plate and your schedule every day that the last thing that you need to do is worry about what your next meal is going to be and whether or not it's going to hit your macros. Like that should have been decided way in advance. so that the nutrition piece is literally on autopilot. Like, make your success inevitable, not up for chance. Know without a doubt that you are going to hit your goals so that you don't have to rely on making aligned decisions when your brain juice is focused on other things and should be focused on other things. So that is something that I see to be a big difference maker between the women who see progress in the healing journey in their physique is the quality of food and the consistency in their nutrition versus the ones who are eating out a little bit more, who are, eating different things every other day, kind of being very reactive with their meals. Number 3 is onto the training side of things. So those who transform lift heavy and they follow a structured program 3 to 4 days a week and they train close to failure. Like they're training at high intensity. And note, failure and fatigue are very different. Fatigue is what you experience when you're, taking these workout classes and you're doing plus 15 reps of things. That is fatiguing your muscle, but that's not bringing it to failure where you're forcing it to adapt and change. That's what creates body recomposition. So the ones who don't see results are taking those workout classes, whatever's on the schedule, going through the motions in your workouts, even if you are lifting. So you're not actually training to a high enough intensity to stimulate hypertrophy. And, you're just kind of doing whatever you feel like each day with no real structure behind your training. And so the science behind this is progressive overload, meaning a structured, escalated way of increasing the demand that you're putting on your muscles, is what triggers muscle protein synthesis and drives an afterburn effect from your workouts that keeps your metabolism elevated for even hours after you actually do your training. The more muscle tissue that you have, the more upregulated your metabolism is going to be. This goes hand in hand with the reverse diet. If you are doing a reverse diet and you're not training with the intensity that's forcing your body to use that extra food that you're feeding it, it's likely that extra food is just going to be stored as body fat instead of actually used to upregulate your metabolism through muscle growth or through training or through increasing your NEAT. So yes, you can do workout classes because, I think I teach workout classes. I think that they're a great way to move your body, but they should not be the foundation of your exercise regimen, especially if you're someone with goals of body recomposition and improving your physique, because they just do not provide the stimulus that's needed to A, build muscle tissue for body recomp, but B, to use the food that you are refeeding your body with during the reverse diet process. Also, on top of training, like your steps matter too. This is something else that I see to be a very big difference maker between these two types of women. The sweet spot when it comes to steps is between 10 and 12K a day. Above or below that range, I consistently see more variable results. Like usually we have the mentality that more is better, but honestly, when I see women doing more than 12K a day, especially during a healing, maintenance phase, it's just adding more stress and inflammation to a body that can't really take it right now. And it's just generally unnecessary for your body. So it's not about maximizing steps, but it's about hitting the range that keeps your nervous system regulated without under or over, taxing it, and still getting the movement in that you need to increase your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, which supports that metabolic upregulation that we have been talking about. So if you're picking your workout plan based off of your mood instead of following a plan, that may be a big gap for you right now. Number 4. Okay, this one's a little bit heavier. This is the one that I see sabotage more women than any other point on this list, I would say. So let this one really sit in. Number 4 is nervous system regulation. The ones who see the biggest shifts have a consistent morning and evening routine that treats stress regulation and sleep quality as a non-negotiable, not optional, not when I have the time, non-negotiable. The ones who stay stuck are hyperfixated on diet and exercise while kind of completely neglecting the fact that a dysregulated nervous system is the root cause underneath all of the symptoms that you're experiencing, even underneath the inflammation, the puffiness, and the weight loss resistance that you feel stuck in. It's sometimes not necessarily what you're doing, while that is a piece of it. Sometimes it's also what you're thinking, what you believe about your body, fitness, fat loss. So I want to kind of paint the picture of this because I think it's very easy to talk about nervous system regulation or stress management very high level, but I want to actually show you what this looks like in your day-to-day routines. So here's what it looks like when your nervous system is dysregulated and you're constantly living in this sympathetic dominant fight or flight survival mode state. You wake up, you check your phone before your feet even hit the floor. You go straight into your day without a single moment of stillness or quiet. No sunlight, no breathing, even sometimes no fuel. You just go straight to your email inbox, straight to the group chat, the Slack channel, straight to stimulating your nervous system. Maybe you drink your first cup of coffee on an empty stomach because you're not hungry yet. That is sending your body into a stimulated state through caffeine without anything to kind of support that or blunt that. You're just putting your body on this blood sugar swing. You call being busy from the second that you wake up to the second that you crash productive. So you're wearing exhaustion almost like a badge of honor. If you're not tired, you feel like you're not working hard enough. At night, you're scrolling in bed because you tell yourself this is like winding down. Hate to break it to you. It's not. And all of this is because you think stress is only mental. You think that if your diet is clean and your workouts are done, the stress doesn't count. You think rest is something that you have to earn after you've kind of hit all of your goals, not something that your body needs in order to get to those goals. You think slowing down means that you're falling behind. You think a harder workout can override a nervous system that never turns off. You also think that stress is outside of your control. That, yes, some stressors are outside of your control. I will totally agree with that. But your job, your inbox, your family, the season of life that you're in, you don't get to, opt out of that. That is something that you have on your plate that you need to handle. But how you respond to that and whether you've been able to build the capacity and the resilience to regulate your nervous system alongside all of these stressors, that is 100% your responsibility and within your control. And that's what we're referring to when we say manage your stress and regulate your nervous system. It's not get rid of these things, these triggers. It's build yourself up to be able to handle them. You cannot control the demand necessarily, but you can control your nervous system's ability to handle that demand. Waiting for your life to get less stressful before you deal with your nervous system or your hormones or your healing is exactly why you're stuck. The stress isn't going anywhere. Honestly, I've found in my own experience, like stress is only growing for you as you're growing in your career and you're getting older. You have more responsibility as a mom or a leader or a wife. Stress isn't going anywhere. So the capacity to handle that stress has to be built regardless. Having no capacity looks like, you get a text that comes in, or you get stuck in traffic, or your schedule kind of shifts by 20 minutes and your whole day is wrecked. You're snappy for hours. You're replaying that one interaction that you had in your head until 9 p.m. You just can't let it go. You need the wine or the scroll or the extra snack just to regulate yourself back down. Your jaw is constantly tight and you don't even notice until it aches. It aches all through your neck and the back of your head. You have one hard conversation and your sleep that night is trash, and somehow your stomach is bloated the next morning, even though you didn't change anything about what you ate. That is a nervous system with zero capacity, zero buffer, zero regulation, zero support, no capacity. Every single stressor that you experience lands at high volume because you don't know how to properly absorb it or move through it. Having capacity looks completely different. The stressor still happens. You're not avoiding life, but you can feel the stressor or experience it and bring yourself back to baseline in minutes instead of hours or days. You can be tired and you can still function like a normal human. You can have a hard conversation and still sleep fine that night. You can hold 3 stressful things all at once without your whole week unraveling. Capacity doesn't mean nothing gets to you. It means you recover faster from it. And you build this capacity through small, controlled reps of stress, followed by real recovery over and over. It's turn stress on, turn stress off. That's one thing that I say to clients is my goal is to instill in you control your ability to feel in control of how you respond to your stressors, like a light switch. You can turn stress on and you can turn it back off. That is what having capacity looks like. That's what nervous system regulation looks like. You have an actual anchor to your morning routine. You're getting sunlight in the morning. You're finding stillness in the morning, or at least at 1 to 2 points throughout your day before ever touching your phone, ever opening your email inbox, ever diving into work. You maybe practice some breath work, long exhales, short inhales, long exhales, some box breathing. Breath is one of the fastest levers that you have to shift your body out of fight or flight because it activates your vagus nerve. You even practice like controlled voluntary stressors. So a workout is a great example of this, where a workout is a stressor, or even something like cold therapy, a cold plunge, or a sauna, like temperature therapy. You actively put your body into a stressful situation, and then you regulate yourself back out of it. This is teaching your nervous system to activate and to come back down on command. It's stress on, stress off. And you can do that through things, like I said, like a workout or a cold plunge or a cold shower or a sauna. Other things is like you actually finish the stress cycle instead of like just stuffing it down or suppressing it or avoiding it. So, when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, you go for a walk. You shake it out, you move your body, even just, crying, like letting those emotions out. Like the body needs a physical close to a stressful event, not just a mental one. You practice consistent wake and sleep cycles because your circadian rhythm is one of the biggest backbones to your whole nervous system. This is examples of how you can build capacity for yourself. None of this is about eliminating stress for your life. It's about practicing the return to baseline enough times that your body finally believes it's safe. The moral of the story here is nervous system dysregulation is why you can do everything right on paper, the reverse diet, the training, getting the lab work done, and still feel stuck. Not because you are not doing enough, but because your body is stuck in a state where it physically cannot prioritize fat loss. Survival always outweighs aesthetics, always in your body. So if you've been white knuckling your macros while running on 4 hours of sleep and giving your body zero downtime, your body is protecting you from a nervous system that never gets that safety signal. So that's number 4. Number 5 is the timeline. So women who see massive change have committed to at least a year of work, bare minimum. The women who don't are trying to rush to fat loss as fast as possible, which is the exact mindset, honestly, that's gotten you stuck in this position that you are. Bringing hormone signaling back online, hormone sensitivity back online, repairing your gut lining, reversing this metabolic adaptation are not overnight processes. They take months, not weeks. So rushing the process means that you're doing the exact thing that caused the original problem. You're under-eating, you're over-exercising, you're putting more stress on a body before it's ready for it. The women who accept that this is going to take a full year are the ones who actually get to stop the starting and stopping over and over and over again. So if your first question after any protocol is, how fast is this going to work? That is your problem. That's what we need to audit. You need to be patient. You need to really trust in this process because it's about more than just fixing your hormones in your gut. It's about becoming a different version of yourself who takes care of your body in a different way than how you used to redefine health through the lens of diet culture. And the last point here, number 6, is only getting blood work done. So the women who transform have real data on your gut, your hormones, your circadian rhythm through functional lab testing, not just standard blood work. The ones who stay stuck are either constantly guessing, like you have no labs, or you're leaning on blood work alone instead of asking, why are these things off in my blood work? The blood work is just scratching the surface. It's just the start. And it's very awesome, good data because you can usually infer underneath of that. But there are deeper tests that you can do, functional lab tests specifically, that I'll talk about today, that will help to explain why some of those markers are off on your blood work. So standard blood work tells you if a hormone level falls within the wide normal reference range. It doesn't really tell you about how your body is metabolizing those hormones, how it's clearing those hormones, how it's using those hormones, what's happening in your gut lining, whether your circadian rhythm is even functioning, which is what controls your hormones. So functional lab tests, the two that I run on clients, I always run blood work on clients, but I also do a Dutch test and a GI map. So a Dutch test is going to look at your hormones through urine. So it's going to look at your hormones and their metabolites. It's also going to look at your cortisol through your saliva at 4 points throughout the day. So not just 1 point in your blood, but how is your cortisol actually fluctuating throughout the day? This is going to tell us a little bit more about your circadian rhythm as well. Then we'll also run a GI map, which is going to look at your gut microbiome, your gut lining, the immune system inside of your gut, your digestive capacity before food even gets to your gut. So there's so much more data that can help you actually get to the root cause of the symptoms that you were experiencing when you go beyond just normal blood work. This is why a lot of women get their blood work done. It looks somewhat normal, yet you feel like garbage. That happens over and over and over again because normal is not the same as optimal. And sometimes blood work does not give you or tell you the full story of what's actually going on. So here's the thing that I need you to actually sit with after today's episode. None of these 6 things are about willpower. None of them are about your genetics or your age. None of them are about you as a character. None of them are a character flaw on you or something that you're doing. So here's the thing that I need you to actually sit with. None of these 6 things have anything to do with your willpower. So that is all that I have for you guys in today's episode. It's likely that the thing that you have been taught to do, the eat less, do more, rush the timeline, wait for permission to trust the process, is the reason that you are still here. If any one of these 6 things resonated with you, good. That was the whole point of this episode. That is not necessarily to shame you, but that is to hold up the mirror, to be like, hey, here's exactly what needs to change for you to start to make progress in your healing journey and also to feel more confident in your body and your physique in this process. You do not need another diet. You need the internal work and dialing in on these 6 behaviors to actually let your body respond in the way that you want it to the work that you're doing. If you're ready to start doing some of this gut and hormone work, or maybe you're doing some of this and you're still not seeing your body change, I want you to shoot me a DM, message me, let me know that you're ready to begin this journey, and let's figure out which one of these 6 is your missing piece. That's all that I have for you guys in today's episode, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.